What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here to talk a little Sorare NBA for this Monday through Thursday slate. While you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. We have a fun slate here, just 3 days. Looks like most teams have a couple games on them. Lot to go into here. First, by the way, if you sign up for Sorare using the link in the description of this video, you will get a free limited card after you purchase 5 cards on the market. So you buy any 5 cards on the market, they're going to give you a free limited card numbered to 5,000. Those cards are tracked on the Ethereum blockchain, so you'll always know exactly how many cards are in circulation. A very cool deal there. So just use the link in the description of this video when you sign up for Sorare to take advantage of that option. Also, we have great Sorare projections on stochastic.com. They are free, and unfortunately, I feel like they are being discovered. I feel like the field has gotten much sharper. This past slate in particular seemed to me that a lot of people played the stochastic optimal, so that was kind of a bummer to see that the field is catching on, getting much better. But I still think there are ways that we can take advantage of our projections. Maybe you don't necessarily need to play exactly the optimal. I think you can find a lot of good, nice plays here that are not necessarily in the optimal lineup. So that's probably going to be my approach in a lot of these contests going forward. I think I am just going to play the optimal once again this week, admittedly. So actually, let me show you. I'll show you the contest that I'm talking about here. So this was the stochastic optimal this week. I just jammed the optimal and of course got 10th out of 8,000. So optimal looking good here, getting me 10th place out of 8,000 entries. But when you go into the contest, so this is the exact same lineup in 4th place. So what they did is they played the exact same cards as me, except they had cards that have more experience. So if you have, let me see if I can actually see it on these. So my Luca has, okay, 8.5% bonus points. So that means that this card has been used in enough contests. Every time you play a card in one of these contests, it gains bonus points. You can also, when you buy cards on the marketplace, you can see how many bonus points they have. Those bonus points do follow the card. So if, now this one has 8.5, if I sell this Luca, it would, the next person who buys it from me would also get those 8.5. So that's really good. I got a nice boost there for Luca, 8.5 for AD as well, but then Biombo, I only had a 7% boost, which, given how big his score was, is kind of a big one. Avdia only 7%, and then Giannis 8.5. So then you look at my lineup, finished in 10th, as you can see, and then some lineups with the exact same players finished right ahead of me. So here's, I think this is, yeah, this one has the exact same players as me. Looks like a lot of people actually jammed the stochastic optimal and of course got up to 4th place. This is the top one that had the exact same lineup as me. And if you look at this one, they just had, he got 50 points out of Avdia, whereas I had 49. Just incrementally had players that had more experience points there. So we finished in 4th. So that is something to be aware of. If you are planning on playing our optimal lineup, you will probably want to use cards that have a good amount of experience points to try to vault to the top of the leaderboard. Maybe it's a reason to not play exactly the optimal. I also saw actually I think the top lineup in this one, oh no, the top one did not end up being. So several of the top lineups were like one player away from the lineup that I played. So the stochastic optimal, a lot of them had the exact same players, except like they had Embiid instead of Luca, that kind of thing. Like they were one-offs. And I think that is a fine way to play this still. Like I don't usually recommend that for DFS, just playing like one off the optimal. You want to be at least, a 3v3 or something in DFS. But I think in these contests, even though the field has discovered these stochastic projections, and also I think it made it easier that we now have the optimal lineups listed right on the projections page. I think that in these contests, there's still few enough people that you could probably play just a 1v1 if you think there is one good enough to play there. A lot of ways to play this, but I think that's still a fine way to play in these contests. That one actually was leading for much of the day yesterday. The one off the optimal where they played Embiid instead of Luca, I believe it was. So these are our optimal lineups. You can see we've got the champion optimal and then the contender optimal. Pretty big difference here because the contender optimal is you only have a 110 last 10 average salary cap and no MVP, whereas a champion optimal, it's 120 and there is an MVP. So big difference in the types of players you can play. But go over how I think the best way to approach this slate is. And in general, I do think you can play something very close to these optimals, even play these optimals. They're going to be, among the best lineups out there for sure. But you can also just the way that I was playing before we started, showing our optimal lineups there is just finding players who project really well and then players who are great values. Actually, let me refresh and see if we've updated at all recently. We do update throughout the day. Doesn't look like, yeah, we have not updated yet for Drew Holiday being out. So that's going to change some of the projections because Javon Carter, I believe, has a last 10 average of 17. Let me see what he looks. Javon Carter, yeah, last 10 average of 17. So he's going to project pretty well, I think, with the news that Drew Holiday is out tonight. It's one place that I think our projections might update once we have, that news accounted for. But in general, the way that I'm trying to approach these slates is I'm trying to find some of the players with the highest value score. And I guess for anybody new here, the last 10 average essentially works as a player's salary. So it's the average of their last 10 fantasy scores in their most recent 10 games, but it is also that last 10 average is used as the player's salary. So if you look at some of these contests, if I go to play upcoming, here, the limited contender, probably the easiest one to explain. There's a cap. You get to choose 5 players, and they have a salary cap of 110, and that's just a 110 is the salary cap, with the last 10 average essentially working as the salary in these contests. The limited a little bit more complicated because you have a salary cap of 120, but there's also an MVP spot, and that's automatically whichever player has the highest last 10 average is your MVP, and they don't count against that salary cap. So for the limited contender, you have to pick 5 players. They have to fit an average of 22 last 10 average. The limited champion, you get to choose 5 players, but only 4 of them count against the salary cap. So essentially, you have an average of 30 for those 4 plus 1 MVP spot as well. So there's a pretty big difference in this. Then, of course, this week they're running the limited underdog where you just get a salary cap of 60, no MVP spot or anything. So that is going to be a tough contest. You're going to have to play some really nice value. And we don't have the optimal for that on the site. So that's actually a fun one. Just taking advantage of looking at this value column, which is just players last 10 average. It takes their projection, and this is the projection for their highest game in the time period. So Giannis, has 3 games. His highest projection in those 3 games is 61.5. Valanciunas, same thing. And then like Nasir Little, this projection of 24 is his projection for the higher of the Blazers 2 games in this period. So very useful. You just take the projection for the player in their highest game minus their last 10 average. That is going to be their value score. So that is what I'm looking at typically as I am setting lineups, particularly for that underdog contest where you only have a 60 salary cap you're going to need to stay under. It's going to be tough. And if you just play, like, look at these top 5. I play Keon Johnson, Drew Eubanks, that's 22, 41, 51. Ryan Archie Diacono gets us to 55. So, maybe you could play these 5 and then just try to upgrade somewhere else if there is anywhere that you can upgrade projection wise. That's something to look at for that underdog contest. But generally, for any of these contests, the most important columns I'm looking at are the value column, and then of course the just raw projection, especially in the limited champion contest where your MVP doesn't count against the salary cap. You just want the player with the highest raw projection. So that's going to be Jokic. That's why he's obviously in that optimal lineup. But typically the way I'm building is I'm trying to play a little bit stars and scrubsy, where I'm taking whatever the highest projection is, or one of these players who projects really well to be my MVP spot, and then after that, kind of trying to work in some value. Usually, I can find at least one more stud in there, and then just work in value plays from there. So that's typically an approach where you can play a lineup that is close to the optimal, a very stars and scrubsy lineup, but maybe not exactly the optimal that we have. That's going to be my approach in the probably all of these contests. Champion optimal, I still might just play the stochastic optimal with since I already have most of the cards in there. And then the contender optimal, I think I might go a little bit off of this optimal just because I'm already using my Giannis in the champion. I'm not going to buy a second one to play in this one. So I'll be playing off of the optimal in this one, but using these projections to find, something close to the optimal, something that projects really well is going to be my approach. By the way, we are launching on Friday a stochastic Sorare league, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. Greg's going to be in it. Eric's going to be in it. I'm going to be in it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're actually going to have prizes in there. I think we're going to offer a free week of Stochastic Plus Platinum for the winner. I don't know if there are going to be additional prizes. We're still working things out with the So Rare team and figuring out, what kind of prizes we can offer for this contest, but it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to launch on Friday. So keep your eyes and ears open. We're going to, give more details throughout the week. But that's going to be a lot of fun. So pay attention. Make sure you join our So Rare League, the Stochastic So Rare League, on Friday when we launch that. But anyway, this is going to be my general approach to the slate, is trying to find players that project well, obviously, and then players that have great value scores. And of course, I always use as a tiebreaker the number of games a player has in the period, because the more games they have, the more chance they have to spike an upside. So Giannis, obviously a fantastic play this week, one of our better values already, with the L10 of 50, but then the 3 games just really icing on the cake. Giannis, probably my favorite play of this So Rare slate. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a live So Rare show with Greg. It'll probably actually happen before this video comes up, but make sure you check that one out, because I am going to be opening these 4 rewards that I have: two rare cards and 2 limited cards. I think they're all level 2, so there should be some fun cards to open there on the live show with Greg coming up. Anyway, that is going to be my approach to this So Rare NBA slate. Hope you can find some success using a similar approach, but don't play the optimal, because I'm playing the optimal. Don't dupe me. Anyway, good luck this week.